Hey everyone. The last video of Module 2, designing a research plan. And this will be important as the final project for this class is indeed about designing a research plan. So um, as we start with all of these, and you've seen all of these, right? This certificate is about taking the advertising journey and breaking down the parts, a consumer-centric approach, defining the business objectives relevant to marketing, assessing the requirements for an effective plan to reach those goals, getting to actionable insights, taking them through the creative process, through the media selection and optimization process, and then understanding the effectiveness of the marketing campaign. And specifically with this course, understanding some of the different methodologies at a high level, develop an understanding of qualitative and quantitative research and behavioral data and the different types of data as an input to a campaign and measuring a campaign, setting the appropriate success metrics and measurement plan, and a high-level research plan to address those marketing needs, which is what we're going to talk about now. So designing that research plan. So what is a research plan? Basically, it's a document that details all the important information about your market research project or projects. It's a document that helps all the key stakeholders. So your ad agency, your creative agency, your media agency, your digital agency, your research partners, your internal brand teams, your management, everyone's on the same page in terms of the objectives, the budgets, the methods you're going to use, the deliverables, and the timelines. And it can be used for a single project, even if it has only one phase, or a broader effort with multiple research projects, multiple phases, multiple stages. Why is it important? It's important because it can be a critical factor in determining whether or not your research efforts get funded and they're ultimately successful, helps you stay on track in terms of a timeline. And a well thought through plan, more so than just the objectives, can really help you focus this research plan. Often we'll start a research plan and want to put in all different things into the plan. But then as we start getting into it and putting the pieces together, we realize, maybe we don't need this, or maybe we need this earlier, or maybe we need this that we hadn't even considered yet. So it really helps focus you so you get the right information at the end of the projects. And like we said, it helps you know your timeline in total and when everybody has to do things, the budget and the desired outcomes, so you know when you're on track and off track. We've talked a little bit about this already, but just a little bit more, when you're setting out to develop a research plan, there's some key questions you want to ask yourself. Obviously, what are the business objectives you are trying to address? And some of the elective courses go into this deeper. Delineate those business questions from research questions. So, or translate them, maybe is a better word. How do you create research questions to address the business questions? What do you need to actually learn? Is it even a researchable proposition or one that research is good for? There are plenty of instances where I have people come to me and say, oh, here's what we want to research. And I don't think research is going to help answer that question. I don't think research is going to give them a good answer. Maybe it's something you just get a bunch of smart people in a room and you make the decision. And that does beg the question, is it worth spending money on new research, right? Does some exist somewhere already that you could go to? Or is there past research that your brand has done that you could mine to get some learning, to answer this question. What method or methods do you need that'll best suit your needs? And then obviously some practical things. Who do you need to research? Who's the sample going to be? When do you need the results? And how much should you budget? And these are some numbers that you might find helpful. The average brand or firm spends about 10% of their gross revenue on marketing, and they spend about 1% of their gross revenue on research, data, insights. And of course, who's going to be conducting this research and how much will that cost? There are some key elements to a research plan. And like, I said in one of the earlier videos, there is no one exact journey for the advertising and marketing process. There also is no one kind of research plan. But basically, there's an overarching background. There are the objectives that we're trying to get out of the whole plan. And then for each phase, and a phase may be, let's start with some qualitative, let's move into an A&U, then let's do some pricing research. Each of those are phases. What are the key inputs for each one? What do we need to know before we can move on to the next phase? Who do we think the target audience or sample is going to be for each one? What's the actual method that we're going to use? What are the expected outcomes of each one? Some sort of timeline, a Gantt chart. What's the budget? Do you have a likely vendor in mind that you're going to use? And then for your final deliverables, who are you going to send those to for each one? Just a very simple example, and I apologize, this is small. But if you were doing a research plan for your social strategy project, which you will be doing, this is an example of what a Gantt chart could look like. And this doesn't have all of the information on it. You can imagine this spreadsheet keeps going out to the right with what vendor and what are the budgets and all other information. But basically, a timeline that shows each phase. So over here, an initial exploratory qualitative study. These are the objective among these groups. We want to learn these things. There are no real inputs at this stage because this is exploratory. And then the outputs, what do we want to learn? We want to have a deep understanding of how people engage with board games, it should say, and the role board games fulfills in people's lives. And then that's going to be an input into a quantitative A&U study. Right, again, amongst these samples, here are the things we want to learn, and here's what we want to come out of it. Then maybe we'll do a concept test and a pricing test. And again, we would have objectives, inputs, outputs, budgets, vendor selection, who's going to receive these outputs, and how are we going to socialize them, right? So it's a plan for how we're going to execute each stage of the research in a larger plan. And again, it helps keep us on schedule. Usually in status meetings, we would come back to this chart, and often within each of these phases, this board game quant A&U, we may have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 timelines within there. Here's when we're going to review a questionnaire. Here's when we're going to be in field, out of field. Here's where we're going to have data. Here's where we'll have an analysis readout and who will be there, etc. So again, a plan like this helps keep us focused. It helps keep us on schedule. It helps us understand what we're doing at each stage. And they don't have to be carved in stone. We may learn things that say, oh, maybe based on this learning, we should add this phase. Or based on this learning, I don't think we need this phase anymore. Or we should change this phase to something else. Yeah. Okay, so not that complicated, but that's sort of what a research plan is. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out in the discussion forums or send us an email. or we'll talk about it in the synchronous session. All right, be well, everyone. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.